I became engaged in this industry as a graduate student, and so I'm a civil engineer by education. And back then I had decided to stay in school for my master's degree. They were talking about how important that might be to be able to become a licensed professional engineer. And so doing that, I was in school at Tennessee Tech, and the research that was funded was roads research. And so I ended up sticking with it. Got to know the people in the industry when I ended up being at Federal Highway Administration, and got to know more of, I guess, the national level of folks that are in the industry, and then just really fell in love with it. So it's really the people. It's also, even though it is a basic material for our roadways and it seems simple, it's still a very challenging material, and it still has to be engineered. And so I love the challenge. And then also just love, now that I'm with NAPA, the members we serve, kind of like Heritage Construction and Materials. What these companies do day in and day out for our country is something that I can be passionate about. $14 trillion of freight moves across our country, and almost 75% of that is on our roadways. So our roadways are critical to our nation's health, our economy, our way of life, and so we've got our work cut out for us. I think first and foremost is that to be able to meet the challenges of our infrastructure moving forward, whether it's increase capacity based on how our nation's growing, or the fact that a lot of our major infrastructure is coming to the end of its design life, innovation is going to be key in solving these big, grand challenges. And so how can we implement artificial intelligence in what we do on a daily basis? And while there are some possible pitfalls, and I think companies are dealing with that and determining ways to handle that, I do think there's just a huge opportunity there, because one of the challenges in our industry is we've got a lot of boomers starting to retire. We have a great lack of knowledge that we're facing with all of this knowledge going out the door and retirements and things like that. And so I think artificial intelligence can be a tool that can help put that knowledge at folks' fingertips, especially those new to the industry. So let me tell you about the road forward. So it is our industry, the asphalt pavements industry, commitment to net zero by 2050. And what we mean when we say net zero is not necessarily that all emissions are going to be gone, but whatever we can do to get to that point as an industry, and then whatever we may need to do to offset the rest of the emissions. First of all, what can we do as an industry? So for someone who owns plants, who actually paves the roads, what can they do to lower their emissions? There's also a goal around what we can do with the owners of roadways, those that are owning the roadway throughout the life of it, in terms of how can we make sure that we have well-performing, good condition, smooth roads, and then also what we do with them at the end of the design life. Working with our supply chain partners in terms of who supplies the materials to make asphalt pavements, and then finally the electric grid and the power we need to be able to do what we do as an industry. And so for us, going through this process, which first of all I should mention was member driven. There was a member task force. Jerry Huber from Heritage was involved in that to make that commitment, and to also do the education and research we needed to get there, to determine what we needed to do. The bottom line is it was important for our industry to have a goal and have something to work towards. And so through that, we've had over 30 companies, I think we're at 34 companies now, join us in this effort. I think our industry has already done a fantastic job of being environmentally sensitive and aware, and doing things that not only help with cost, such as recycling, but also obviously help the environment. Most people are surprised to know that we are the #1 recycled material in the United States by rate at 99%. And you know, that should just be hopefully common knowledge eventually. So we did some kind of deep soul searching on workforce development a few years ago, and what we learned is there's just really a lack of awareness around our industry and what we do. And then number two, and we're dealing with this as a country as a whole, the thought that everyone needs to go to college, right? And I think we're finally kind of having a reckoning with that and realizing not everyone has to go to college. That does not have to be the ultimate be all. There's great careers in industries like construction and what we do. And so I think there's an education component. I think there's also a component where companies are realizing how important it is to invest in their people and create those pathways where they can see that it can be a career. You know, it's not just a job in the meantime or something. You can actually make a career out of this if you apply yourself. I think the bigger picture in general for our country is making parents, guidance counselors at schools, as well as even younger folks know that there are multiple paths available to you in order to be successful. So we've got a great story to tell.